you may feel compelled to want to make at that time. Later on at 6 o'clock, we'll have the opportunity for public hearing. If you've not done so already, there'll be sign-up sheets out in the lobby for you to sign up to testify. You'll be limited to 3 minutes of testimony at that time. If you're representing an organization, you'll be allowed to testify for 5 minutes. And if you care to submit written testimony rather than making oral testimony today, we will make sure that you have the website and the availability for how to make that testimony as we move forward. So at this time, I'd like to ask Tim Wilmot, President and Chief Operating Officer of Penn National, to begin the presentation with us. Tim?
Thank you, Chairman Fry. Good afternoon, Commissioners and staff. Again, I'm Tim Wilmot, President and Chief Operating Officer of Penn National Gaming. Before we get into the presentation, I would like to introduce who's up with me on my side of the table. To the right of me is our Senior Vice President of Project Development, Jim Baum. To the right of Jim is our Senior Vice President of Gaming Operations, Jay Snowden. And at the end is our Vice President of Public Affairs, Karen Bailey. Also from Penn National here today is our Senior Vice President of Public Affairs, Eric Shippers, our Vice President of Racing Operations, Chris Mackerlane, our Deputy Chief Compliance Officer, Dim Baldacci, and also our Director of Operations from Rosecroft, Lisa Watts. I'd like to begin by giving you a brief overview of Penn National Gaming. We're headquartered in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. We actually got started as a racetrack company. About 15 years ago, we got involved in gaming and primarily have grown through acquisitions the first 7, 8 years of our existence. And then most recently, we've been one of the most aggressive developers of new gaming operations here in the United States. We're publicly traded on NASDAQ, about $4.3 billion in market cap. Have one of the largest regional gaming footprints of casinos, which I'll share with you in a map a little bit later. But about 20,000 employees today, 35,000 slot machines, and one of the best, most conservative balance sheets in the gaming industry to fund developments like these. As I mentioned, we have a very, very rich heritage in horse racing. The Carlino family actually got started in the early 70s by purchasing a racetrack in central Pennsylvania, Penn National, and actually went public in 1994 as a pure racing company. It wasn't until the late 90s where they got involved in casino entertainment. But today we own or joint venture 11 different pari-mutuel facilities operating in 9 different jurisdictions, and we happen to be the largest pari-mutuel operator here in North America. We have over 1,100 live racing dates at our tracks, which is the most live racing dates of any operator. We currently operate today 3 racetracks that have full gaming, casinos and slots like we're proposing here at Rosecroft. We also have 2 track slot operations under development. In May of this year, we broke ground on Hollywood Casino in Dayton, Ohio, and also Hollywood Casino at Mahoning Valley, which is just outside Youngstown, Ohio. Those 2 properties will open up in the fall of 2014. So it does go without saying, when you look at our casino footprint and our horse racing footprint, we have the largest amount of operations that integrate both live racing and casino operations. Now, when we look at the impact today in the state of Maryland of just harness racing, there's 1,600 jobs related to the industry, which represent over 18,000 acres of Maryland farmland and a value and contribution to the state of $66 million in gaming assets alone. Again, that's just harness racing, not thoroughbred racing. I mentioned that we have been one of the most aggressive developers of properties going back the last 5 years. In fact, last year we were the only casino operator to open up 3 new facilities. In February of 2012, we opened up Hollywood Casino at the second turn of the Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, Kansas, in a partnership with the International Speedway Corporation. Then in May of last year, we opened up Hollywood Casino in Toledo, Ohio, and in October of last year, last week we just celebrated our one-year anniversary there, Hollywood Casino in Columbus, Ohio. So we have a proven track record of bringing in these projects on time, on budget, and on target with the communities that we're dealing with. This is our footprint of where we have casino properties. The blue are casinos, the green are casinos with racetracks, and the red are pure racetracks. The ones that are in highlight are the 2 tracks and slot operations in Ohio that I mentioned that we had broken ground on in Dayton, Ohio, and Youngstown, Ohio. And we just recently announced in Southern California, about 20 miles east of downtown San Diego, a development to manage an American Indian tribe facility that hopefully we'll break ground on later this year and open up late 15, early 2016. Now for the exciting part. This is a rendering of the $70 million fully integrated Hollywood Casino Resort at Rosecroft Raceway. We have a lot to speak about today about this proposal. Wanted to share with you next, however, before we get into the details, a video that we've put together about how Hollywood casinos are built, what they feel like, and then get into a little bit more graphical detail about the proposed development at Rosecroft.
Penn National, we build casinos. Take one.
Our application, as we've submitted it for this $700 million program, considers that we're going to be bringing together something that is going to happen in about 10 days. We have announced that our company is splitting up into 2 separately traded public companies on November 1st. We're creating the first publicly traded gaming real estate investment trust company, Gaming and Leisure Properties, Inc., GLPI. And in our proposal, which is fully funded, GLPI is proposed to be the landlord of the facility and own the land and buildings, which will be leased by the tenant, Penn National. And we have a master lease agreement that constitutes the business relationship between the 2 companies. They will be 2 separately traded companies, and as part of this transaction, we've had to move, for IRS purposes, existing operating assets over to GLPI so they could qualify for REIT status, and one of the properties that we moved over is the Hollywood Casino in Perryville, Maryland, so that Penn National will no longer have anything to do with Perryville, Maryland post-November 1st, and that will be the responsibility, the operating responsibility under GLPI. So this project is fully financed. And as we were thinking about how to make this project the most impactful for this community, we announced today, and we'll be amending our application to generate 100% of the profits of the operation back to the community. And when I say 100% of the profits, that is after all of the expenses in terms of rental fees, management fees, interest expense, but all of the cash after those line items will be distributed back to the community into a couple different buckets. One, there will be about $200,000 annually that will go back to District 8 here in Prince George's County. But we've also reached agreement with the Prince George's Hospital System to provide up to $100 million of funding to help support their satellite neighborhood healthcare office build-out. And also, the distribution of profits will also go to the creation of a supplemental retirement plan for Prince George's County teachers. And as we've looked and worked with our actuarial and pension fund consultants and looked at the pro forma of the operation, we anticipate that the $100 million will be distributed over the course of approximately 12 years to the hospital to meet that commitment. And in just this slide, we have only gone out 15 years, but the intent is for the funding for the teacher's supplemental retirement plan to go on in perpetuity, and for the first 15 years would represent $219 million of distributions. So as I said, this is brand new. This is something we will be amending the application to describe this in far more detail, but we believe that this will provide something unique. We all will be paying gaming taxes based on our revenues. We'll all be creating jobs. This is something over and above everything else that we're obligated to provide in our application back here to Prince George's County. So with that, what I'd like to do is just show another short video to talk about the stakeholders of this announcement, the horse racing industry, the hospitals, and the educators who will all be part of our program if we're fortunate enough to be selected.
I've been coming to the racetrack since I was like about 8 or 9 years old. My dad brought me here. I fell in love with harness racing at that age.
Rosecroft's rich history dates back to 1949. The track was once frequented by the likes of Lyndon B. Johnson, Elizabeth Taylor, and then husband Senator John Warner. With its ideal location across the river from Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia, Rosecroft Raceway presents a unique opportunity for expanded gaming in Maryland.
I'd love to see the casino come here and have the racetrack stay open and prosper. It's a nice location. There's a nice drive-in.
It's a great place for people to come out and have fun. The management here is fantastic, and my co-workers, I enjoy working with them.
It's just a wonderful place, essentially, to enjoy and the camaraderie.
People are not going to have to travel to Atlantic City. They're not going to have to travel to Pennsylvania and places like that. They're going to stay home. They're going to come here.
To help address the most pressing needs in Prince George's County, Penn National has committed 100% of the profits from its proposed casino to fund hospital community care programs and the teacher's supplemental retirement plan.
I taught school for like 32 years and still miss it, even though I've been retired for like 13 years. But I don't think there could be a better cause than to have a certain amount of the income and earnings go into education.
The Prince George's Hospital Center is very pleased about the partnership with Penn National Gaming and the Hollywood Casino Resort proposal. We will be using this funding to expand a primary care access system, which has been described by the Department of Health as absolutely necessary, and make it possible for us to make some significant impact on the poor health outcomes our citizens currently experience.
Expanded gaming at Rosecroft Raceway will allow the facility to once again become a premier racetrack, while preserving the more than 1,600 jobs and over 18,000 acres of open space that are dependent on the harness racing industry's long-term survival.
There's just a whole host of people that benefit from racing.
You name it, blacksmith, veterinarians, farmers, truck salesmen, carpenter.
Without horse racing, I'd be out of a job.
I don't know what else I'd be doing. I just don't know. It's just been my whole life racing and training and just being around horses, so I don't know what else I would do.
Since racing was not doing well in Maryland, I had to move to Delaware.
It seems like it's getting worse and worse that way. You know, more and more tracks are getting slots and people just don't want to stay.
I couldn't sell out if I really wanted to. Not at this point. I've kind of waited out.
We really need the casinos, the casino to come to Rosecroft.
Penn National Gaming's proposed Hollywood Casino at Rosecroft Raceway will serve as a vital economic engine for the local community, the state, and for the harness racing industry.
If Penn National get the license for gaming, it would be opportunity for all of us in this area.
With expanded gaming, we will definitely see a revival in horse racing.
I'm currently based in New Jersey. If everything goes right, I'm seriously thinking about moving to Maryland and trying to make a home down here if they get the slots and everything.
I can remember coming to Rosecroft probably 30 years ago. You'd pull into this lot and the first thing you'd have to worry about is finding a place to park.
And you'd come in and dining was fantastic. I mean, with people all over.
The stands were packed. It was exciting to come.
That is what my memory is of Rosecroft, and I really would like to see that happen again.
It gives you a sense of pride, I should say.
Now I'd like to introduce Jim Baum to talk about our traffic and road improvement plan for this proposed development.
Tim, before we hear from Jim, let me just ask a question again. Obviously, we have not, until today, heard about the profit sharing that you've described. Again, if you would, exactly what sort of expenses would be paid for out of the money that you receive? Obviously, there's a certain share that you get, the other goes to the state. Out of the share that you were to receive, what sort of expenses come off of that before you'd be making that investment back to the community, as you've indicated? Chairman, you have all the operating expenses of the facility, all your labor, your utilities, real estate taxes, marketing expenses, and so forth. Beyond that, you'd have a rental fee going back to GLPI for the use of the land and the buildings. You'd also have a management fee going back to Penn National for the management of the operation, and then there would also be an interest expense for the capital associated with the development as well. So those are the four primary buckets of expenses that will be netted off of the operator's take before the distribution goes to these community organizations. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Baum, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Sorry.
Thank you. Am I hot here? Thank you, Commission and staff. Thank you, Tim. I'm going to cover our off-site aspects of the project. And as you can see in the red, that represents the property boundaries of Rosecroft Raceway that would be the Hollywood Casino and Resort, including Rosecroft Drive all the way up to Brinkley. So I've highlighted the area that's shown in the elliptical area that is the area of improvements and the area of study, which is reflects the adequate public facilities ordinance. And sort of the bottom line as I go through this that I want to make sure that everyone understands is that the improvements that we propose to make off-site to the access to this project will make the roadway conditions better than they are today, inclusive of the impacts of the casino project directly, as well as the additional regional growth that occurs for planned and yet to be planned projects over time. The facility itself is located about 1.8 miles generally south of the Beltway, and during peak periods of commuter traffic, many of the segments and intersections are already experiencing failing or near failing levels of service. Property access for our patrons coming to the area will generally be about 40% will be coming via the Beltway from points west and northwest. 30% of the patrons will be coming from points east and northeast. And then about 20% of the patrons will be coming from areas to the south of the Beltway using surface streets, and about 10% for surface streets that would be north of the Beltway, primarily coming in through 414. There were about 8 intersections that were studied in the APFO area of study, and as I mentioned, with these improvements that we propose to make that would aggregate something in the vicinity of $15 million in direct construction, plus the cost of any right-of-way that needs to be acquired for those improvements. The areas that you can see in red represent the segments that are the areas of improvement. This is essentially a zoom on the area of study. And many folks are probably aware of the areas where there's pinch points, especially at St. Barnabas and Brinkley, coming off of the Beltway from both exits 4A and 4B. And then these numbers here indicate the specific intersections that would be improved by this project, which are enumerated here. And that's essentially the offsites. It's a very large scope of study, but when you get right down to it, the bottom line is that this part of Prince George's County will have better traffic conditions post-project than pre-project. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jay, our Senior VP of Operations.
Have these traffic improvement concepts been vetted with county or state officials, or is this strictly based upon the consultants that you have retained looking at these intersections and the surrounding areas and the anticipated additional traffic as a result?
Our traffic consultant, which is Lenhart Consultants, have conferred with the State Highway Administration. It was the Access Management Division, Steve Foster, who had been conferred with regarding the process that we would have to go through for our access point approval, and also to ensure that the roadway improvements that we contemplate do not get into a major alteration to interstate ramps that would require the interstate access permits.
Sorry. Mr. Snowden?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners, staff. And again, thank you for providing us the opportunity to share with you more details of our exciting project at Rosecroft. You heard from Tim Wilmot, our president, a high-level overview of the company, a little bit about the project, and then more about traffic mitigation plans from Jim Baum. I'm going to share with you some color behind the project itself and our marketing plans for the project. So starting off with the site plan, again, to orient everyone for what we're showing here. Rosecroft Drive is at the top of the page here, coming down. Everything highlighted in yellow would be surface parking opportunities at the project. We have over 125 acres of land, so plenty of land, not just for this initial phase, but for expansion down the road as well. The red you can see here in the middle of the page would be the casino as well as the racing grandstand, and you can see the 5/8 mile racetrack just below that as well. In the orange, some additional surface parking, entry access, as well as a 3,000 space parking deck. With regard to more specifics to the scope of the project, it includes 3,000 slot machines, 100 table games, 40 live poker tables, over 5,000 parking spaces, again 3,000 of those being structured, and over 2,000 surface parking. We have plenty of land to expand if the demand were to warrant. A number of restaurants, lounges, bars I'll get into momentarily, a hotel of 258 rooms, 70,000 square foot multi-purpose event center that serves several needs for us that I'll explain momentarily, as well as 80,000 square feet of harness racing as well. This looks a little bit more like a circuit board than a casino floor plan when you zoom out like this, but we wanted to orient everyone exactly what the plans are inside the facility. Where the green laser is at the top, you can see this is the porte cochere, the valet drop-off for the casino floor. The main gaming floor is everything you see here in yellow. Over on the right-hand side would be the entrance from the parking garage, so the majority of your customers would actually be entering the facility from this side over here. You've got racing, first-level racing in the pink-purple, and then you've got a number of restaurants along the perimeter that are highlighted in orange. You've got an entertainment lounge, seafood restaurant, Asian, 4-venue food court, and a steakhouse. We also have proposed, you can see escalators where I'm circling with the green laser here adjacent to the casino cage that would take customers from the main casino floor up to a mezzanine level, which we've showed here. Here are those same escalators, and that would provide you access to the 40-table poker room on the mezzanine level, sports bar, as well as dining options in the grandstand with beautiful views overlooking the track on this second level as well. Getting into more specifics of the project, with regards to racing, we acquired the Rosecroft in February of 2011. At that time, the track had been shut down a year and a half, 18 months previous to that in 2009. We did rehire 66 of the previous team members back into the facility. Today, we have over 100 employees at the racetrack. A little north of half of those are Prince George's County residents. Annual payroll north of $1.3 million today. We have 54 race dates that we're scheduling or planning to schedule for 2014. Would be the most harness race dates in the state of Maryland. And over 80% of the races and purses dedicated to Maryland-owned, bred, or trained horses. We do have a significant amount of experience in other jurisdictions being part of racing revitalization or racing renaissance. When the introduction of expanded gaming came to be, we were part of that process in the states of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maine, which was also a harness racetrack in Bangor, as well as New Mexico. And you heard Tim talk earlier about our plans in Ohio, Dayton, and Youngstown. So we do believe that there is a resurgence possibility here in Maryland as well, and we think that this expanded gaming opportunity could certainly be the driver of that resurgence.
How many race days have been scheduled for 2013, and how many have you had in each year since the time you acquired Rosecroft?
We have 54 race dates proposed for 2014. And Chris, our Vice President of Racing, if you want to speak specifically to 11 and 12.
I'm sorry, Chris Mackerlane, I'm Vice President of Racing for Penn National Gaming. In 2011, when we reopened in the fall, we just raced 20 live racing dates. We raced 50, I believe 50 in 2012, and in this year, 2013, we're racing 54 racing dates. We will be applying next month for, as Jay mentioned, 54 racing dates in 2014.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. With regards to the restaurant offerings, we do plan to offer our award-winning Final Cut Steakhouse. This is a staple at the Hollywood facilities across the country. It's an award-winning steakhouse, Forbes 4-star award in Toledo, Ohio, a number of Wine Spectator and Open Table winning awards as well. We plan to offer a seafood restaurant with sushi bar, an Asian restaurant, a noodle bar. There's a significant Asian population, so we believe for that clientele as well as the non-Asian, those will be great offerings. A 4-venue food court, as well as a sports bar and restaurant that I showed you earlier on the mezzanine level. The hotel, 258 rooms, 18 of those being suites. We would include a pool, spa, and exercise facility. And adjacent to the hotel would be a 70,000 square foot multi-purpose event center and meeting space that allows us great functionality to offer a variety of activities there. The 70,000 square feet, again, 2,500 seat multi-purpose event center allows us not only to market to, as a facility, an integrated racing and gaming facility, not just to market to the racing and gaming enthusiasts, but also bring in customers who may have no interest at all in racing or gaming. This allows us to put on functions, business conferences, business group meetings, weddings, banquets, things of that nature. We have a great deal of experience in this space. One of those properties is our property in Las Vegas, Nevada, the M Resort. We have 100,000 square feet of meeting and banquet space there. We do approximately $20 million in annual group sales business, so it's a significant component of our business model in a couple of our markets. Another is our Argosy facility in Riverside, Missouri, where we have held over 300 events in the last 12 months alone, so you're talking an event almost every day. This is a significant part of what we do in both of these markets. Having a little delay here, excuse me. The 2,500 seat entertainment venue also allows us to offer forms of entertainment. We believe 2,500 seats for entertainment is the right number. It's the right number because we can put on entertainment very frequently. We're thinking that we would have entertainment on a weekly basis in this venue. We also believe it's the right size because it would not be competing with any of the existing surrounding entertainment venues in the area. So this would not be cannibalizing, but complementary to what exists in the market today. We actually have similar size facilities. We've put on a wide range of shows and diverse acts. You can see on this particular page, The Price is Right. It's a simulated game show, Family Feud, Let's Make a Deal. We actually put on this Price is Right for 3 consecutive days at one of our other properties and sold out 5 shows, 2,000 seats in each one of those shows. And there was a great mix of cash-paying customers, non-gamers, as well as some of our VIP gamers who partake in that experience. And you get a feel here, this is just a sampling of the types of genres and acts that we can book into a 2,500 seat venue on a regular, again, weekly basis. You can see Lenny Kravitz, Billy Idol, B.B. King, P. Diddy, Doobie Brothers, Boston, and the list goes on and on. We just wanted to give you a flavor of what we had in mind on frequency as well as the types of acts that we'd be able to program in this space. We have also included a live entertainment lounge on the casino floor, so this would be programmed on a nightly basis to keep the excitement and energy level on the casino floor going, certainly throughout the weekends as well. We envision sourcing this talent locally, regionally, to support some local bands, and this has been a very successful model for us in several other jurisdictions. Now, with regards to our marketing plan, we have a couple of unique aspects that I wanted to take the time to share with you, specific to Penn National Gaming. The first is our proprietary customer database. We've got an active database of over 4 million customers across the country and in Canada. Specifically, just east of the Mississippi, you're looking at 2.7 million active customers that we believe have a pretty easy drive or pretty significant easy access from a flight perspective as well, given the number of options in the DC area. This would provide us the opportunity, given the draw and the attractions available in the DC market, to hold VIP events with our customers across the country and certainly throughout the East Coast. We also offer, as our player affinity program, marquee rewards. So as customers enter the facility and sign up for a player card and insert the card while they game, they earn points. And one of the nice aspects for the marquee reward program with Penn National Gaming is that those points you earn are bankable. And as you bank those points, you can redeem them a number of ways. You can redeem them obviously within the facility, so the existing restaurants or for hotel rooms, suites, entertainment, things of that nature. We also allow these points not only to be bankable, but to be portable. So it really does drive consolidation of play, even amongst competition, because they can earn those points, save the points, bank them, and then redeem them at properties like the M Resort in Las Vegas on the south end of the Strip. So they can pay for their rooms, save up for a trip with friends and family, and have their airfare and their rooms and their food paid for when they go to Las Vegas. So we believe this to be a very powerful tool within our portfolio of properties. The last way that we allow customers to utilize those points is to support local businesses. And we allow customers on occasion to bank those points and then be able to redeem those points for things like gift cards at local businesses. A couple of examples of what we've done in other markets. Kansas City, Kansas, we had a gift card redemption, point redemption giveaway with the local Cabela's and Nebraska Furniture Mart. Other examples, in Aurora, Illinois, Menards, as well as the local Westfield Mall gift card giveaway. So this is a way for us to give back and ensure that we're not the only ones benefiting from activities such as this, but the local businesses are benefiting as well by driving business their way via gift card purchases. From an advertising perspective, as Tim mentioned earlier, we've opened 6 casinos in the last 5 years. This has provided us a great opportunity to learn what works, what doesn't work, trial and error. How early do you go out and advertise? What are the right channels? What's the proper level of spend, both pre-opening and post-opening? And we have certainly garnered a great deal of knowledge and are very comfortable that our strategy will work because we've tested it throughout the course of the last 5 years at a number of openings. And of course, we're very involved in all of our markets with the regional tourism programs, whether it's the Convention and Visitors Bureau at the state level, regional, local levels. There's a tremendous amount of cross-marketing and cross-advertising that we can get involved in with the 258 rooms, in-room TV on the casino floor, in the room, brochures in the room, at our marquee rewards sign-up areas, on the website, mailing to our database. There's a lot of joint venture opportunities to, again, not just highlight what we are offering, but what's being offered within the region and all of the other local businesses. Some examples, again, of what we've done in the Kansas City market. You can see highlights of baseball, entertainment, casinos, aquariums, and the like.
Jed, I want to get into a legal discussion about the facilities. And I know the REIT that we talked about earlier, that Tim mentioned earlier, but just tell me out, the Prairieville facility will still be referred to as a Hollywood casino facility, correct?
That is correct.
That's correct.
And will the points that someone earns at the Prairieville facility still be part of the marquee that you spoke about earlier?
No, it will not. They will be, the other property that's going over to GLPI will be our Baton Rouge facility, and we have to sever all connections between the GLPI properties. They will have the Hollywood name, and they will be paying us a fee for that brand right. But their customers are going to be completely separate from ours when it comes to the affinity program.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Moore?
The fee that you just made reference to, is that a royalty that's geared to turnover, or is it a flat fee?
It's a brand fee to use the Hollywood name. It's just like if Hampton Inns would get fees to a franchisee for putting the Hampton Inn name on the facility, we're going to get a fee from GLPI to use the Hollywood name for a period of time. But it's a fee for them to use our brand, which, as part of the separation of this company, we have certain intellectual property rights that are staying with Penn National, one of which is the the Hollywood brand, which we operate today 16 of our properties under. So they're taking 2 of those properties and will be considered a franchisee of the Hollywood brand.
Thanks. I was just trying to clarify if the fee is based on their revenue or is it a flat fee?
I believe it's a flat fee, but I'll make sure we get a definitive answer back to you on that.
Commissioner Poole?
Under the new structure, though, am I correct, Charlestown and its facility would be linked. I can't pull this anymore. Oh, it is on, I believe. There we go. Sorry. You got that now? Yeah. Charlestown is the Charlestown facility would be linked with this facility. In other words, pooled right under your new structure. All right. So let me ask you now on project scope. This facility, you said is about 300,000 square feet for the gaming facility. What do you have at Charlestown? Because I'm trying to get a sense of comparison.
Total square feet at Charlestown, pretty similar to what you saw in the description for Rosecroft here today.
It would be about 300,000 as well.
Pretty close. I don't have the exact number, but it's pretty close.
And you have 3,000 VLTs up there. They call it slots, but I mean, it's fairly similar. Do you have about 3,000 slots up there?
Just north of 3,000, 3,200.
Okay. And 100 table games up there?
100 table games.
And 40 live poker?
We actually have 50 live poker at Charlestown, although we're utilizing about half that number today since Maryland Live.
And then you have horse racing up there.
We do.
Is there anything up there that they would have that you would not have down here?
No, there's a hotel also as part of the facility offering at Charlestown, similar, actually smaller than the one we're proposing here. It's 150 rooms versus the 258 here.
And you have a lot of restaurants there as well and all that sort of thing. So
similar number of restaurants.
How did you come to conclude that this is kind of the right model for this area in terms of size and scope?
I mean, for us, it's looking at how we do penetration analysis and the existing competitive set in the market, Charlestown, Maryland Live, the facility that's going to be soon opening in Baltimore, Perryville, and then what is the opportunity left over. And so this is the size facility, 3,000 machines, 100 tables, 40 poker, the number of restaurants, hotel rooms, et cetera, that we're proposing that we believe to be the right number for this market based on our penetration assumptions and drive times.
And to your mind, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I know I got a lot of follow-ups here, but it's just, there's at least a strand of thought here. To your mind, the market that you're going to capture with this facility is what as compared to the market that is up at Charlestown?
Well, Charlestown used to drive about the same amount of business in the state of Maryland and the state of West Virginia. That has changed since Maryland Live opened. Most of that Baltimore and Maryland-based business surrounding Baltimore has largely been going to the Maryland Live facility. So the Charlestown facility now caters more to the Virginia market. We envision this facility certainly targeting the greater Washington, D.C. area. So there's parts of Maryland, parts of Virginia here as well. So there's going to be some crossover. There's no question.
Here's what I'm trying to figure out. At the end of the day, if you get the license here, are you competing with Charlestown? I'm presuming you're competing with the other facilities in Maryland, right? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong about that. But
of course.
Matt, right. But are you competing with Charlestown, or are you going to try it from a strategy of complementing one another, sort of playing off back and forth?
Well, the answer, I think, is yes to both. Yes, there is going to be some competition between this location, this facility, and that of Charlestown in West Virginia. But we think we can drive incremental revenue by virtue of having a property close by. We've cultivated business and crossover visitation between the two, being able to link points between the two and save up points, whether you play at Charlestown or you play here at this facility at Rosecroft, to still redeem those points in Las Vegas is a benefit.
That's what I was getting. What happens, sorry, just quickly, but what happens to Rosecroft Racing if you don't get this license?
Well, Rosecroft is profitable today, and we have no plans to shut it down as long as it remains profitable. And it's tough to predict if the license doesn't go to Rosecroft and there is a large land-based casino nearby, what's going to happen with business levels going forward. But today, we are running Rosecroft profitably. We have no plans to close it. As you saw, we're having 50-plus race dates this year, and we will run the operation, we firmly believe, in a profitable manner in 2014.
You all are very good at what you do, but you bought this out of bankruptcy, you turned it around, you've got it profitable, but is it a strong profit or kind of
No. Horse racing is an industry that has terrible economics, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the industry has been revived because of the connection with slots and table games, and that's given us the opportunity to continue to grow. But racing as a standalone basis, unfortunately, has terrible economics, and that's the challenge here. As long as we remain profitable, we keep the facilities open. We haven't, I don't believe, closed any racing facilities in the near term that I can think of. But there's no question, as we think about our company and how we've grown, we are working to try to convince states to marry gaming with our track operations so that we can grow our company and obviously our shareholder value. But as we all know in the United States, the economics of the industry are not very healthy.
And we, just to piggyback, we've seen this integrated racing and gaming offering work in the states that I mentioned earlier: Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New Mexico, Maine, Ohio. Standalone, it's a struggle on the racing side today.
Can I ask? Sure. All right, I got to ask this last question. Under this latest proposal, you're saying that all profits, and we realize that the definition of a profit can vary greatly, but all profits would actually go to the community. As a business entity with shareholders and investors that you've got to answer to, I got to ask, why would you do that?
Well, I did say one of the expenses that's coming off are management fees.
Yes.
And we'll get a percentage off the top and a percentage off the bottom as part of our fee structure. And that's the consideration that we have for allocating this capital, along with getting the interest expense, obviously, of the capital that's being deployed here. That's going to give us, we believe, adequate returns to our shareholders for this investment.
Thank you.
Mr. Pierce?
Do I understand that your comp redemption program will encompass all of the properties with the exception of Perryville? In other words, I could use that car in Charlestown as well as at Rosecroft, as well as Kansas City, or what other properties that you might have.
The only exceptions to that would be Perryville, which you mentioned, and the Baton Rouge property, which is also going over to GLPI. Those are the two properties that become GLPI properties. And then we are continuing to roll out this program. So it's been rolled out at the majority of our properties. We are continuing the installation throughout 2014 and 15. So long-winded way of saying, yes, ultimately all of the Penn properties would be linked up to the system.
Commissioner Reed?
Currently, is Perryville able to use your rewards program in other facilities?
Currently, it is not. Perryville is a standalone, had not been implemented at that property. It's one of the properties where the marquee system had not gone live yet.
We have been working on this REIT transaction for about 3 years, and we knew as we were working with the IRS on this and the creation of where these operating assets that we're talking about are moving over into a taxable REIT subsidiary, we knew that Perryville was going to be one of those properties, so we purposely did not connect it up with the rest of our enterprise.
Okay. With regards to the construction schedule, and then I'll hand it off to Karen Bailey, we anticipate being open on July 1st, 2016, which is the earliest that this facility can open by statute. We believe this would be a 24-month build approximately. This is a single-phase project, so this is not a gaming only, racing only, and then a hotel 2 years later. Everything that you've heard from us today with regards to the project scope would be available for customers to enjoy from day one, July 1st, 2016. With that, I'll hand it over to Karen Bailey.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. The area that I'll be covering in the presentation today is actually in relation to our employment practices, our minority business initiatives, as well as our responsible gaming practices as a company and what we envision here at Rosecroft Raceway and the Hollywood Casino property here. There are several commitments that we have set forward for the project, goals that we have set forward for the project as it relates to our employment practices for Hollywood Casino at Rosecroft Raceway. First of all, we are committing to working towards a goal of 90% of our workforce coming from Prince George's County, and we are setting a goal for ourselves of making sure that that workforce is comprised 65% minority. The project as a whole is going to be, we estimate, will create 2,600 direct and indirect jobs. About 1,600 of those will be direct jobs on property. In terms of workforce training, as both Jay and Tim have mentioned, we've opened a number of facilities over the course of the past few years, namely the 3 that we opened up last year in 2012. So we have significant amount of experience coming into brand new jurisdictions where workforce training is certainly needed. And we often partner with local education facilities and other workforce training area and groups within those areas to implement training programs for the workforce and to ready them for our facility. Our employees enjoy a full comprehensive benefits package. The average salaries that we estimate for this particular facility is $45,000 annually. The benefits package includes 401k, tuition reimbursement, medical, dental, short-term, long-term disability. So what you would expect from a full benefits package, that is what we include for our employees. That's what we include as a company as a whole today, and we'll continue that with this particular facility.
Commissioner Reed?
Your 65% minority workforce goal, as stated, how does this compare to the percentages currently of minority workforce in your ongoing other casino facilities?
Actually, well, I'll touch on this in my next slide, and actually there's some statistics that we have from some of our recent projects. One of the principles that we set for ourselves and seek to achieve with our facilities is to be reflective of the community around us. What the community looks like in Bangor, Maine is different than Chicago, Illinois, and all other points around the United States. And so we seek to be reflective of the community around us, thus the 65% in which we're setting for ourselves here in Prince George's County. But as you'll see here in the bottom box of this particular slide shows what we did on the left-hand side from a construction standpoint and the minority and women-owned business goals that we had set for ourselves and what we achieved in those respective jurisdictions. And then on the right-hand side is what we have from a workforce perspective as we sit here today, approximately, and as Tim mentioned, almost 2 years into operation with these various facilities. So looking at from the minority business opportunities for this particular facility, we obviously looked at the goals that have been set by the state in the original statutes in 2008 for slots and BLTs. And then we also looked at what the county requires from their businesses here in Prince George's County, which I understand to be at 30%. Looking at the fact that we are in a minority-majority county, we've set a goal of 50% MBE, WBE participation throughout our construction process, and for a 20% goal for our ongoing operations procurement. One of the reasons why we took the 30 down to the 20 is simply because so much of our capital, our ongoing procurement capital, is slot purchases, which is being shifted over to the operators per the statute or the new statute from last year. And so adjusting for that, as well as looking at the performance of other facilities around the state to date.
What's the current workforce at Rosecroft? What is the percentage minority participation there?
We're roughly 50%.
Thank you.
But we'll get back to you with a definitive on that number. So as I mentioned, I won't go through each of the bullets again, but this is something, how we set a standard for ourselves and what we seek to accomplish from a minority participation as well as a workforce perspective is to be reflective of the community around us and to utilize local business and local workforce. And we certainly have the experience in that. On the construction side, one of the challenges that was always posed to us is utilizing minority and women-owned businesses that tend to be small businesses. So how do they break into a $400 million plus construction project to be able to compete with the big guys? Well, part of that is we work that through mentoring programs. We do that through fast pay programs so that they're not having to carry payroll out 90 days as they typically would with construction programs. They are on a 30-day pay programs. We also chop up bids so that people can take pieces of larger parts of our construction, such as painting or roofing or all the different things that can be broken up into multiple bid opportunities for multiple companies. We also have the experience and the success. Each of these projects that we have highlighted here were union built. They all either had an MOU or a PLA associated with them in which we were able to successfully match up both our goals for minority business usage as well as meeting the obligations of our MOUs and PLAs. And the final item I'll be, actually it's not final, second to final item I'll be touching on is our responsible gaming initiatives. I think as an operator currently in the state, I think we've certainly demonstrated a good track record of what we have accomplished. We comply and support the American Gaming Association's standard for responsible gaming. Each of the properties that we operate have a responsible gaming committee. This committee is responsible for the oversight of our responsible gaming initiatives, the training of our employees to help identify potential problem gamblers, and then continuing to make sure that we are in compliance with our company's overall responsible gaming standards. In addition to responsible gaming, we also have significant training resources that we put into responsible alcohol service and in terms of making sure that we manage all of those areas, as well as the prohibition in trying to stop the any kind of underage gambling or unattended minors, as sometimes can happen with casino parking lots. We've actually been active advocates of legislation here in Maryland to help put some teeth into helping stem underage folks from trying to come onto our gaming floors and maybe make it, or we'd like to have it disincentivize them from trying to come onto our gaming floors, as other operators have had experience here in the state and maybe find better uses for their time than trying to get past our folks. The final slide I'll be covering today is the support of our communities. This is our charitable giving programs. From a company standpoint, we donate on an annual basis millions of dollars back into our local communities. These decisions are done and made at a local level. These are not decisions that are made at a corporate level and sort of parsed out from that perspective. However, we do have a corporate foundation that supplements the activities of our property within the particular communities in which we operate. Given the fact that we already have outlined a pretty substantial community program, as Tim and Jay have already spoken about, that's obviously where the crux of the money will be going to, into those two designated areas of healthcare and education here in Prince George's County. But in addition to that, we will also be committing a $200,000 set aside each year out of the profits to go into Prince George's County Council District 8 organizations. This is the area, sort of the best geographic area we can identify that is going to be impacted by our facility and, quite frankly, other facilities that are being proposed to you this week. So that's the other sort of the final third of our program is a $200,000 annually into the local community organizations in the immediate area of Rosecroft. And with that, I'll turn this back over to Tim.
Thank you, Karen. So as we conclude our formal presentation, I just wanted to highlight the 5 distinct advantages that we believe our proposal has here for Prince George's County. What are you guys doing? Thank you. Community organizations. We have the commitment hospital system, and then the ongoing support for the retirement plan for the teachers here in Prince George's County. We believe Penn National also adds the most expertise and experience operating facilities in regional gaming markets like we have here. And as you saw with our experience, we bring in projects on time, on budget, and on target with our communities. We are fully financed. We have, both with GLPI and also with Penn National, ample powder on our balance sheets to finance the $700 million project. And I also do want to highlight the fact that we will be paying full property taxes. There's no TIF land associated with our proposal. We estimate that there will be $8 million of incremental new property taxes for the county as part of this proposal. And finally, it's an opportunity to bolster 2 industries here in the state of Maryland. First, obviously, the gaming industry, but also the horse racing and specifically the harness racing industry at Rosecroft as we integrate, if we are fortunate enough to be selected, our racing operations into our casino operations. So with that, I'd like to just finish up with a video that shows the flyover of our proposed facility that represents this $700 million investment.
Introducing Hollywood Casino Resort at Rosecroft Raceway, a $700 million investment proposed for the site of Rosecroft Raceway. Rosecroft Raceway, located just off Washington, D.C.'s I-495 and I-95. Just off the St. Barnabas Road exit, customers will be greeted by an enchanting entrance to what will be the region's premier racing and gaming resort casino. The Hollywood Casino Resort will provide a key opportunity for Prince George's County and the state of Maryland. First, it will be the largest private investment in Maryland's harness racing industry, creating a new state-of-the-art track, grandstand, and event center, saving thousands of jobs and farmland dedicated to Maryland's vibrant racing legacy. Second, no other proposal for the Prince George's Casino will generate as much opportunity for the county and the state. Penn National Gaming will commit 100% of its profits to fund the new Prince George's Hospital system and a supplemental pension plan for the county's teachers. Finally, Hollywood Casino will offer the best of its first-class, award-winning offerings. Brand new state-of-the-art casino, 12-story, 250-guest-room hotel with pool and spa, new grandstand and harness racing track, a 69,000-square-foot event center with seating for up to 2,500 people, and a 3,000-space parking structure plus additional surface parking. Inside, guests will be greeted by our cast members' red carpet service. Penn Properties have won multiple awards as best places to work, and it shows in the top-notch service provided by our employees. The casino floor will feature a classic Hollywood style, invigorated by the latest digital and video technologies, creating an exciting and dynamic entertainment destination. Customers will choose from our 3,000 slots, our 100 live table games, and our 40-table poker room. Want to take a break from the casino floor? Guests can enjoy dining choices including our award-winning steakhouse, Final Cut, a seafood restaurant, Asian dining, a sports bar, and other casual dining options. No company can match Hollywood Casino as a quality entertainment destination for Prince George's County. From the largest single private investment in racing to the funding for the new Prince George's healthcare system and the creation of a supplemental retirement plan for our county's teachers. Hollywood Casino Resort at Rosecroft Raceway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. That's the end of our formal presentation.
Okay. Any questions of members of the commission? Yes, Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you. You've given some predictions of revenues in the information that you've provided. How close and accurate have you found that those predictions have been at your other locations?
You know, we've opened a lot of new properties in new markets, and sometimes we're pleasantly surprised, sometimes we're unpleasantly surprised. It's market to market, and there's a lot of different factors. We think we're good at it. We work with outside third-party consultants that also help validate our numbers as well. We think this market is very strong, very deep. It also has an experience level, given its proximity to other casinos in the area, that it's not something that's new. So we think the market is, from a consumer standpoint, fairly mature, and we feel confident about our numbers. But it's not an exact science, and we do it market to market, and it guides us in how we make capital investments, and we think we're good at it. But there's always some margin of error in plus and minus in the actual results.
But you feel in the numbers that you've provided for us for this location, there are fewer of the questionable variables than, say, at the other ones where you were maybe disappointed in the numbers when you had them actually?
We think they're appropriately conservative, and you know, we will share with the selection committee as much detail as you would like about how we come forward with those revenue projections, and they're based on drive time, concentric circles, competition, other factors like smoking versus non-smoking. All those things get put into the mix for us to come up with our revenue projections.
That would be great. Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a couple that I've listed here. You note the direct property jobs. How many of those are full-time and how many part-time?
The number that was quoted was the full-time equivalent, so there would be a ratio of full-time and part-time that would be greater than that number in terms of total number of employees.
Okay. All right. So that would be then when we talk about benefited positions, that's all in that formula that...
That is correct.
Thank you. Do your plans provide for any public contribution to infrastructure at all? No?
No.
And when you had noted that you had...
I'm sorry, Mr. Baum, I think you indicated there's...
No, it's all contemplated that this project will pay for all off-site improvements, including right-of-way acquisition.
And when you noted, when you were discussing that earlier, that you had consulted with State Road, State Highway Administration, did they provide anything that stated that they were satisfied that the proposed changes that you had in your plan would suffice?
Well, they certainly felt that we followed the guidelines of the adequate public facilities ordinance. Obviously, that's an iterative process as you get into definitive design, but we believe that our impact analysis was comprehensive and fully compliant with that ordinance. And obviously, the one area that becomes a little bit more consultative in nature is when you start dealing with the interstate access related issues. And I believe that Steve indicated that he felt that the nature of our ramping, exiting, and egress onto the interstate system would not trigger an interstate access permit requirement.
And have you worked with Prince George's County's Highway Administration?
There has not been a working session with them, no, not as of yet.
Have you had any discussions about, with locals about police, fire, I would guess particularly police services being impacted? And I know that we certainly take that into consideration with local contributions because it will impact the local governments, but have you had any discussions at all with the local government?
Not at this point. I don't believe we have.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I think that's all.
If I may just add to that real quick, from a training perspective as well as our workforce perspective, one of the things that we also have a longstanding background on is working obviously with our local fire, police, emergency services as operators. One of the things within our workforce, particularly within our security group, is that everybody's actually trained as a first responder. So we work in conjunction with our EMS services so that we're able to take on as much as we can from our perspective in minimizing the impact on their perspective.
Thank you.
Commissioner Miller?
My question relates to your permanent financing for the project. By the time you open and are in operation, what will be the mix of debt versus equity for your permanent financing?
Well, as we split the company out, on the Penn side, we're going to have about $1.1 billion of debt on our balance sheet. We're going to have interest coverage of 7 times, which is very, very healthy. Now, projecting out to that time in 2016, we do have, as part of our credit facility, a revolving credit facility that has capacity for up to $500 million. And right now, when we do spin the companies out a week from Friday, we're going to have $475 million of available capital in that facility. Conversely, GLPI, who's going to be responsible for the land and buildings, will have, when they spin, about $2.5 billion of debt on their balance sheet and also have a revolving credit facility that has ample capacity to fund their piece of the land and buildings of this facility as well. That changes over time because we get annually, Penn will, about $180 million of free cash flow from our operations after we service our debt, pay our taxes, put our maintenance capital back at our facilities. So, between now and July 1st, 2016, those numbers are constantly changing.
So I was really trying to understand the profit sharing, the profit sharing that you've referred to. And you say that interest will come out before the calculation of that profit. I was trying to understand for the project, not for the company, but for the project, when you calculate your profits that you're going to share with the institutions, how much debt will be associated with the entity that is measuring the profit?
It'll be approximately $250 million of debt that will be serviced. I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reed?
I'm wondering if you've had an opportunity to sit down with Prince George's County and go over your concept plans with them for the facility. And if you have, what seems to be, or is there something that would be more problematic with the zoning? What component would it be? The height of the hotel, or what component of your concept plan is going to be most challenging for you?
The design of the facility takes into account, the FAA height restrictions and so forth. And as you saw, the apartment complex across from the the track, our building, which I misspoke earlier today when we were on the apron of the track, and I mentioned 16 stories. It's actually 13 stories above grade that our highest structure, which is the hotel tower. So notwithstanding the change of use associated with gaming activity, we believe that the facility will fully comply in all regards with the zoning and various aspects of the design of the facility, which our architects look closely at existing code when they begin the conception of these facilities to make sure that we meet all of the local code requirements as well as the international building code for these types of facilities.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? Mr. Kramer? No problem.
Do you anticipate any environmental issues? Have your architects or any of the development people given you an indication that there could be any environmental issues or told you that they anticipate that there will be none?
No, the one thing about this particular project and this site is that it's an existing developed facility, and while we will be taking down the structures that are there, there will be no additional land that will be deforested or otherwise impacted. So there is no immediate environmental aspect. Obviously, we have the infrastructure-related issues of, making sure we have adequate water and sewer and fire protection, those types of things that are all contemplated in our project development. The only environmental aspects that would come up would be those associated with the off-site improvements to the extent that they would exist for those segments and intersections that would need improvement.
Any other questions, members of the Commission? Mr. Mohammed, let me just conclude. Any closing remarks that you'd like to make before I make some concluding question to you?
I'm sorry, Chairman, I couldn't hear you.
I didn't know if there's any concluding comments you'd like to make before I ask you one final question.
Obviously, there's a lot of new information that we're sharing for the first time today. We realize we have to give more details and amend our application. We'll do that as quickly as we possibly can and work with staff to get all the answers that you may have about the specifics of this profit-sharing program. And you have our full commitment that we will turn this around very, very quickly.
Great. We appreciate you doing that. As you know, the commission that we serve on has the responsibility of evaluating the proposals and then awarding a license. We were not a part of the legislation that was involved in creating this sixth facility in Prince George's County. We were not a part of the referendum that took place statewide. Our role is to be open and as transparent as possible in evaluating the proposals and being fair in treatment to each of the applicants that are before us for this license. Let me just ask you, do you feel that this commission has treated Penn National Gaming fairly with respect to your application and the license?
I do.
Thank you very much. Okay. This time, we'll take a recess from this portion of the day's activities. We will be resuming again at 6 p.m. Again, if you wish to testify at 6 p.m., please sign up outside in the lobby. At that time, you'll be allowed 3 minutes for individual testimony, 5 minutes for any organizational. So we will stand in recess until 6 p.m. Thank you.